coffee might not be around in 25 years.
We millennials and Gen Z, we could be the last generations to drink coffee.
This is probably the worst we've seen in 100 years.
But how can that be true when coffee production keeps growing?
You can drive for hours, mile after mile after mile of coffee fields.
If you're new here, welcome. For the last few years, I've been traveling the world, meeting people trying to build a better future before it's too late. This time, I'm in Brazil, trying to understand the future of coffee. What can we do to make sure that coffee stays around and doesn't become a luxury product for the super rich?
We've gone past the point of sustaining the world, sustainable. We need to regenerate the world.
I've realized that coffee is so complex, from where you plant it to how you harvest it and how you prepare it before it actually gets into the cup, for something that we just take for granted every day. Most of the coffee we know and love today is Arabica, and Brazil produces almost half of the world's Arabica coffee. It's smoother, more complex, but the plant is also more sensitive to heat. So I went to talk to someone who is right in the middle of it.
Yeah. I'm Felipe Croce. We're at FAF, which is short for Fazenda Ambiental Fortaleza. We're an organic coffee farm in the state of São Paulo, Brazil. I was born in Brazil, but I grew up in the US. So from the age of 3 to 21, I was in the US, being an American. There's 1 year crops they're gonna get in. I would come to the farm with my cousins, but I never liked coffee. It was roasted really dark, it was really bitter, and it was an adult thing that my uncles and the adults did when they talked about politics. And I associated this with, one day I'll like this, but I really want to like this, but I don't like it. My parents started before me, and my grandfather before that, but my mother started the organic movement in the 80s, and my parents took on to become organic completely. I had a class at university, and it was called So You Want to Be an Entrepreneur. And the professor had started a coffee roastery, and I got a job with him. And I started tasting coffee, and I started enjoying coffee. And I found that coffee could taste like blueberries, guava, and chocolate, and strawberry. I kind of fell in love with this. I was graduating, and the farm was struggling. My parents living abroad and trying to become organic, and lots of management issues. So I just moved to the farm in 2009 and kind of went straight from university and a North American upbringing to becoming a farmer. And I've been here ever since.
Before my last coffee film in Uganda, I never really questioned where my coffee comes from. It's just something I have every day, sometimes too much. But even if we take it for granted and we can access it almost anywhere, almost for free, this way of life is now under threat.
Well, I think we're at a turning point.
So whenever we started commercially farming coffee, we started putting synthetic inputs, we invented pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, and we created this downward spiral of increasing production and increasing productivity is the only way to be a profitable farmer. Depleting soils and depleting wildlife and depleting biodiversities.
Coffee has an incredible connection with humans. We were both born in the same place in Ethiopia. We like the same exact climate. We both perform perfectly at 24 degrees Celsius. Coffee brings out a lot of what's good in people.
Really nice.
If we continue the path we're going, we millennials and Gen Z, we could be the last generations to drink coffee in the way that we drink it today, which is readily available at a decent price, and that could be gone.
Tell me about the possible extinction that we're facing.
Right, so we've been tracking climate scientist predictions since the year 2000 on the farm. And we are already at 2040 in terms of what they predicted. The climate and the farm is already 2.8 degrees hotter here on this farm.
You remember how I said Arabica is sensitive to heat?
It is estimated by 2050 that about 50% of the area that is produced Arabica coffee today will not be suitable in the way we plant today, which is monoculture, full sun exposure. This is the future that we're facing, but we have solutions for that.
Brazil is the biggest coffee player, like the biggest producer of coffee in the world. So that means Brazil also is a player in dictating how the market movement is going to be. When Brazil has a good year, that affects the market, making coffee cheaper. When Brazil has a bad year, prices move the opposite direction.
Well, many people have probably heard about coffee crisis and prices on the news in the last years. So we had a drought, and then we had a serious frost, and then we had worst drought on history.
This isn't a film about climate change, but the weather is changing, and industrial coffee farming was never built to handle it.
The industry sold to farmers that fertility comes from the store. Herbicide, pesticide, and fertilizers. Teaching farmers to put in all their inputs from the outside, which comes from Ukraine and Russia, which is extracted out of the soil and shipped on petrol ships to Brazil and trucked into our farms. The soils are being sterilized by heat, by drought, by lack of food for the microbes. And so we're systematically we're turning our soil into dirt. It is, in my opinion, very short-sighted.
A word that's coming back over and over again is soil and soil health. It needs good nutrition for things to grow in it. You could grow stuff without feeding it good nutrition. Just like a human, you could give a human steroids and McDonald's and it will grow, but will it be healthy?
That person probably will not live to 100 years old. They will have a peak of productivity and they will crash. So
right now, the coffee fields are like the humans in the Matrix, in the scene where all the humans are connected with hoses into a big machine and the machine is slurping the energy out of them. This is what the coffee plants experience. They don't get any nourishment. The soil is so dry, so they can't really live, but then they have this artificial feeding mechanism that makes them grow anyway. So if coffee is this much under threat, I would expect production to be falling. But that's not really what's happening here. In some places, production is thriving.
The government is supporting irrigation projects, so we've never been irrigating so much in Brazil, which is going to buy us 10, 20 years until the water won't come out. A stable moment based on continuing to pump water out of the soil. 10 years from now, this crisis will hit really hard.
So the way we're keeping coffee production up today is the reason that it's disappearing. But the signs are already here that beating the planet into submission like this isn't the smartest idea.
Since 2020, we have been having serious climate issues every single year. Last year, the drought caused a 23% reduction in the crop of Brazil. You're talking about a reduction of 13 million bags. The second most productive country is Colombia. They produce 13 million bags a year. So we just lost, due to climate issues, the entire production of Colombia. And the coffee price went up 90%.
Which should have been a warning, but instead it became an opportunity. So farmers invest heavily in irrigation, backed up by big government money, pumping more water out of the soil, and suddenly the harvest looks strong again. Not because the problem is gone, but because we're keeping it alive. And eventually, time runs out.
If we don't make a change, we will see lots of people not be able to afford a good cup of coffee. Maybe they'll have a bad cup of coffee, or they'll have something that's flavored, coffee flavor, right? Oh, that is a world I do not wish for society, for the next generations. I do not want coffee to be something for rich people. It's a product planted by the people for the people. The industry wants to push intentionally really dark roast coffee because it's easier to disguise poor quality. If the coffee is at risk or expensive, you want to make that ingredient less important. In cappuccino, that was our generation. And the generation above us were pushed coffee with milk. And now the new generations are being pushed candy, basically. Not because it's what they like. They'll say that is what they like, but it's what they're being pushed to drink.
So coffee doesn't disappear, it just slowly transforms into a different experience. Something that is easier to keep alive.
Then it will buy us 10, 15 years, and we will drive off a cliff.
So today we're heading up to meet one of our producing partners, Vanessa Moreno.
I had a tree fall on it last year. Oh no.
5 years ago, Vanessa left her career as a lawyer in Sao Paulo, searching for a life closer to nature. She returned to her family's coffee farm, and now, together with her mother, she's trying to grow coffee differently.
E aí, enquanto o pessoal falava, não faz isso, não vai dar certo, você não sabe o que está fazendo, eu me nutria mais ainda de querer fazer dar certo. E hoje é uma das lavouras mais bonitas e um café que bebe super bem, né?
But changing how we grow coffee also requires us to change how we value it.
We've never been willing to pay more for coffee. Fact is, today, we're still on par, dollar for dollar, to what coffee costed in 1977. And if you look around in anything else on the planet, everything is exponentially much, much more costly, right?
It's, I'm trying to stay out of the most intense sunlight, but I'll be okay. Let's go!
Mesmo com os desafios climáticos que a gente vem falando agora. Eu acho que, somado a isso, o que me mantém firme no café é poder fazer a diferença. Eu acho que qualquer pequena diferença que a gente fizer aqui vai inspirar outros produtores de café.
Right now, we are going up with Felipe to the coffee plantation on this farm. It's what he calls a system 3 with agroforestry, and it's going to be interesting to see what that looks like because he's super into this and super nerdy on the subject, and I love that.
Critically low battery warning.
We're creating a system that is regenerative, it's organic, and agroforestry. At the farm, we function as a functioning farm, but as a lab. So we take a lot of experiments, a lot of risks to innovate. So my whole philosophy is matching nature intelligence with human intelligence, creating a high yield, high productive, regenerative, organic farming system. The regenerative movement is first and foremost about creating, again, healthy soils with cover crops, taking away chemicals, and climate resilience with trees and other things. And so this is really starting to take off.
So this is an amazing place. We have entered now the tree nursery of the farm. I didn't know they had their own tree factory.
This is the trees that have been growing for the last 10 months, and they're just about ready to go and be planted.
So this is all for increasing the biodiversity and creating shade for the coffee.
Yeah, exactly. Most of them, these are for going into the coffee system. And then when we reforest, like new areas or plant around the farm, we add some diversity. Here we have Fedegoso. Fedegoso is a native Brazilian tree that is fast growing.
Can I touch it?
That pollinators and bees really love. Here we have some cedar. Here we have avocados. Avocados are always delicious.
How many different species of avocado do you have on the farm?
I think we have about 7 or 8.
Wow.
I have like avocados 10 months out of the year.
Yeah, and they're delicious. We've had them for every meal this week, and I just want to move here and just eat avocados.
Sibipiruna, more gliricidia.
I was just surprised that there are so many types of trees and that you can actually have a place to make baby trees. That never even crossed my mind that would be a thing that you do. But when you started this whole project, there wasn't anyone to ask, so you had to figure some stuff out yourself, right? Where do you learn all this?
Trial and error.
Trial and error.
Learning from smart people, talking to other farmers, what they're doing, YouTube, being curious. To walk and look up, looking at which tree, where coffee was healthy and productive, and what trees were around it. So that was the major school, yeah.
Cool.
So this is the Fedegoso.
Has it grown from nursery size to this in a year?
In a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Things tend to grow quickly here.
Yes.
Is it already planted?
It's planted, yeah. Now we're doing like 3 rows of coffee and 1 row of only trees. So it actually went from like 100 or so trees per hectare to 1,500 trees per hectare, besides coffee.
That's a huge increase.
Yeah.
This is nothing more than a reawakening of indigenous ways of farming, aligning modern efficiencies with nature's way of functioning. And in my opinion, that's not only the solution for coffee, that is also part of the solution for the global climate crisis, and that is the solution for human health. It's very simple. You want to be healthy, you need to eat from a healthy soil. What we've done here, we have our coffee plants. So we planted this guinea grass, cutting once every 5 weeks, and then it throws the mulch here, and it starts to build soil. All of this that we're recycling and feeding the soil and always keeping it covered. This is feeding all the microbes, protecting from hot days, and just keeping this soil working and creating more life, which will feed this plant. So
This also helps absorbing the water, right?
exactly, it keeps the water for a long time. If you have just a very bare soil, they can just wash off the topsoil, and then it can dry out really quick. So this is going to keep moisture on for another 10 days. So just a little bit of rain with the system will help keep this plant happy and turn it into beans. This is going to be a very great production here. All of these nodes, they had a flowering. The flowering was about a week and a half ago. We already see the beginning of bean formation, and so it's going to be a very successful flowering.
If everything here turns into a coffee cherry, these branches are going to be very, very heavy.
They're going to be super full. This would be a very impressive production for a very conventional, filled with synthetic fertilizer farm. This would be very, very good. If organic, this is fantastic. Shows that its system is healthy. Plants are very healthy. As a general rule, the happier and healthier we keep our plants, the more delicious our coffee is going to taste.
What's happening here?
I'm making the grain classification to see if the coffee is in the quality is okay.
The smell in here is amazing.
Yes.
Do you ever grow tired of it?
No, never.
We are seeing the effects of temperature decrease, the increase in biodiversity, the increase in carbon sequestration, the increase in soil matter, the decrease in the evapotranspiration, in the temperatures of the soil and the temperatures of the plant. We take this knowledge and share it with our communities to make everyone just a little bit out of their comfort zone that they want to change.
Dá sim, acho que acredito que...
So this is okay.
This is okay. Yeah.
Good. So I put that here.
Yep.
This is a lot of work.
Yes.
So this one looks a
It's
bit black.
bad.
It's bad, yeah.
Bad, yeah.
I'm a natural. In Swedish, in my language,
Your language.
yes, dålig böna.
Dålig böna.
And how many beans do you have to peel to get 1 cup of coffee?
100.
Oh.
I'm a farmer, but I'm a coffee lover. I love the plant and the ritual of making a coffee, and I love enjoying the flavor of it. When you have a filter cup of coffee, it's like the naked coffee. It's coffee and water, and that's what I think is truly beautiful. And that makes us sit and enjoy our time drinking a cup of coffee.
Seeing the individuals who are passionately bringing change into the world is giving me hope. But is it enough to save this complex and beautiful drink before time runs out?
And so I do think we will have other much more serious crises in the coffee world 10 years from now. But these things are like heart attacks. They don't kill you, but they say, hey, you want to get your act together or you want to die. We had a stroke. Maybe 10 years from now, we'll have a very serious stroke, a heart attack.
I came here to make a film about coffee, but it quickly became obvious that this was about something much bigger. Like what we choose to value, what it takes behind the scenes for us to have our drink every morning, and how hard it is for humans to change, even when the consequences are staring us right in the face. And the more I learn, the more frustrated I get. Human large-scale systems aren't looking at how to change direction. They just look for temporary fixes to keep the old ways going, like putting a band-aid on to prevent a cancer from spreading. And that is the thing that scares me the most. Not that we don't know what to do, but that we actually do.
We still have chances to correct the path, but it's going to take some serious act, getting it together.
If changing systems is this hard, it's easy to feel like what you and I do as an individual doesn't matter. But I don't agree with that, because every single thing that I've filmed over the last years points in the opposite direction. Change always starts with people, even when it looks impossible.
Quando chove, renova a esperança. Que aí começa a brotar água de novo, aonde já tinha secado, aí você começa, né, a ter mais ações, você se motiva de novo. E de repente vem uma temporada seca como essa, assim, dá aquela dorzinha no coração, mas é aí que a gente tem que fazer, é nesse momento que a gente tem que fazer.
That's why I make these films, to tell stories about people who are already proving that change is possible. So if this story resonates with you, subscribing to this channel is honestly one of the easiest things you can do to help me do more of them.
Yeah, nice coffee. Yeah.
If we can start building an understanding and see real quality coffee on the shelves and the farmers getting better paid for higher quality, regeneratively grown coffee, we can change the system, and hopefully coffee won't become this luxury product that's only for the super rich and everyone else drinks coffee flavored sugar water. Because that would be a really sad way to end this film. I think we're gonna fix this.
Because the future isn't something that just happens to us. It's something that we keep choosing every single day.
That's big, but so this is where you're gonna harvest your super luxury coffee in 2050 that's gonna be sold to the billionaires.
It will be sold to everyone. Yeah. I think we won't sell to billionaires.